Thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Jeff Lyon. I'm the chairperson of Democratic Woodinville, presenting the Serve on Your City Council webinar. This is a webinar to teach you more about participating in democracy here in Woodinville and potentially serving your community as a member of the City Council. I'm joined by our former mayor, Gary Harris, and by former mayor, Elaine Cook.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Gary. I will turn it over to Elaine to get us started.
Thanks for inviting me to participate in the webinar with you and Gary, or Mayor Harris. When I was thinking about participating in this webinar with you, I was thinking that all cities need good people to step up. And I think it's great that you're helping people navigate the sometimes confusing process of running for local office. So I thought I'd start with this particular slide about the Woodinville City Council, and I thought I'd start by kind of describing the form of government that the city of Woodinville has. In a council manager form of government, which is the kind of, or the type of government Woodinville has, the mayor is a figurehead or facilitator of meetings. Woodinville's Council of Seven appoint a chair or a mayor every 2 years from the body of that council. The mayor is in this form of government, along with the city manager and at times the deputy mayor, they help create meeting agendas and run the meetings. The mayor runs the meetings. And in the absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor can run the meetings. The citizens of the city get to elect 7 members of the city council. At the ballot, the city council members are policy makers. They make long-term plans for the city. They decide how the taxpayer monies are spent, and they employ the city's manager. He or she, as the city manager, is an administrator and manages the operations of the city. The role of the city council, or the role of a city council member, is to represent the needs of their constituents, which perhaps to most people is just obvious, right? They take back to the whole council or the county and state legislators what they believe to be the most important topics or the most important needs of their citizens, based on input they receive from people who live there and who pay taxes. So I think this topic is really important because it may be confusing or, like I perhaps have already said, not obvious to people that would like to throw their hat in the ring and elect, campaign for local office. I also wanted to say that city council members are problem solvers. They help solve problems of all sizes. So from the tiniest of a problem to big problems. And typically, when people don't know who to go to, they will write to their city council. Even if it's a problem the city council, a city council member or the body of the city council can't solve, they typically go straight to the representatives. They think, you know what, their representatives or the city council members will represent their needs or their problems to whoever can solve that problem. And oftentimes it might be an administrative problem. So in that case, the city manager and his or her staff would, help the problems of the citizens. So a small problem might be a neighbor who has 4 roosters and those 4 roosters are crowing all night. So that neighbor calls or emails the city council. A medium-sized problem might be a parking issue in a neighborhood. There are some neighborhoods that have very limited parking, and people come home late at night from work and can't find a parking spot in front of their house. So they may email their city council. Maybe a large problem might be the lack of parking in the Hollywood School District, the Hollywood Schoolhouse District, where there are lots of restaurants and wineries and shops and inadequate parking. They're going to write to the council and want that problem solved. And typically people are going to be angry and they're going to complain if they don't get a response. So if they don't get a response or they don't get the response they wanted, they will typically feel upset and angry. And at times they'll think, oh, I'm going to run for city council and solve that problem. I think it's always important to remember that you are one of 7 and that it takes a majority of that council to make decisions or create policies that help or benefit the whole of the city.
The council has regularly scheduled meetings, and they have an agenda that is printed prior to the event, so that if citizens are interested, whether you live in Woodinville or not, citizens that are interested in an agenda item can come to the council meeting. They can speak during public comments, which are at the beginning or at the end of a council meeting. And public comments is really a chance for the citizenry to speak without debate, without interruption from the council, without any contradictory or yelling at the public to be quiet and sit down. So really, the public person who is speaking gets 3 minutes to say what they want. And what should properly happen is then that the chair of the council or the mayor says, "Thank you for your comments." And now the next person will be, and at a later time, if the council wants to speak to those issues that were addressed during public comments, they can do that. They can add that as an agenda item, and at a future meeting, they can speak to that issue. There are some things that the city council can vote on and control, and there are some things that the city council can't. If it's a King County ordinance, or if it's land that is outside the city limits, we can't really make zoning, vote on zoning or make zoning recommendations for land that we don't control. There are things like the Growth Management Act that give the city guidelines as to, for instance, how many dwelling units should be built, and gives us a recommendation for how many of those should be low income dwelling units. And the city has to decide how are we doing as far as building enough units to handle the increase in population? Will our roads handle that amount of traffic? What do we need to do for roads, the trestle, in order to keep people moving in and out of the city? Bus service. All of these things impact how things go on in the city.
Yep.
And
Yep. For me, in short, in terms of governance and what a city council does is they act as a legislative branch of the city government, and they manage a budget. And if both of those things are done and done effectively and done well, then a city thrives. And without those two, if the city council is ineffective at doing either of those things or representing people, in addition to representing the citizens of the city, then the city struggles. And I think when a city struggles, people feel it in their neighborhoods. They feel it at the lowest level. And then the council's responsible for investigating those issues and trying to find solutions to those issues.
yeah, in the fall of the year, we have the council has a CIP budget that we look at, capital improvements, and so there may be $100 million worth of improvements that the city would like to do at some point in time. The city doesn't have $100 million that they can spend on doing those improvements. So what Elaine and I did when we were on council is that we voted on, the council voted on what is the most important projects for most of the people in the city. Where do we get the biggest bang for our buck? The roads have to not be all potholed. There has to be a certain amount of road improvement every year. There is sidewalks are a nice thing to have, but you have to decide how many people are going to benefit from the improvement, how many people are affected, what is more important for safety than other maybe nice things to have but aren't critical to the functioning of the city. And COVID was starting to happen when I was my last year in council, and we had less money. Well, obviously, you can't do every project that you want to do because there just wasn't the money coming in for that year. And so you have to make sometimes tough choices as to what you're going to fix and what is going to have to wait until next year because there just isn't the money. But say giving yourselves a pay raise, might not be the best use of that money as far as benefit to the city.
Yep, Gary, I go back to what I love what you just said because it goes back to budgeting, right? The responsibility of the council to manage a budget and stick to that budget and not overspend or overpromise, and to consider costs and consider changes in costs as they plan a project. What I like about what you said is that it goes back to representation. So you're representing people, but you're also representing their money. So your job is to be a good steward of the city's monies or the citizens' monies, to listen to their constituents or your constituents, and to bring their concerns or questions and in some cases demands back to the city to try to resolve issues. I know the city council typically administers through consensus, which is not always easy, and it's really hard to make everybody happy, but setting priorities, I think, is something that's really important for a governing body or legislative body to practice.
Yeah, when people would ask me, well, what was it like to be on council? Was it fun, or did you have a good time? And honestly, I can say that most days were good days. We got stuff done. We helped improve the city. We tried to hear everybody's issues and deal with them as best we could with the funds and the resources that we had. And but that's really one thing that you must do on city council is you need to listen to people, and people in the city need to feel like they are being represented, that their concerns are being heard. It's not just one area of town or that is getting the preferential treatment, say, that everybody is sharing in the tax dollars that go into the city, and that improvements are being done based on safety and need and infrastructure, the things that need to happen.
Yeah. I one of the topics we've been talking about is problem solving. And I'd say that, to most citizens, quality of life issues are important. And most of what the city council does comes down to, I guess, causing or creating a quality of life that the citizens want for their families or for their lives. And the reason they come to Woodinville or they live in Woodinville is because of the quality of life they believe it offers, and it has offered for many, many years. And I guess that, hoping that whatever city council is sitting in whoever's sitting in those seats cares deeply about quality of life issues and cares to maintain a quality of life that so many people love about Woodinville. So,
and I would add that why they live here, but also why we stay here in Woodinville is because, well, we still think that this is a nice place to live. It's safe neighborhoods. It's not so big that you feel like you're lost in the city, or that that what you say doesn't mean anything. And you can see people at the grocery store, and a lot of people, and you can say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" Or "Gee whiz, let's go have a beer and a pizza," sometime. That it's a nice, friendly place to live, and hopefully, that's why I'm still living in the city.
I should be transparent now that you bring that up, Gary, and tell everybody that I don't currently live in the city of Woodinville, but I lived there for many years and loved being involved as initially a commissioner on what was the Parks, the Parks Commission. And then I think you currently know it as the Open Spaces Commission. And then eventually became a member of the city council, or ran for city council, and was supported by a lot of people. So it made running easy because I had the support of friends and family, not just family and friends, but people in my neighborhoods, people in the community that knew that I had a heart for service. But I don't currently live there. But I like to say part of my heart is reserved for Woodinville, or has Woodinville tattooed on it. And I still care. And I was happy to be invited to participate in this forum to talk about how to get involved in city politics, or city, legislative, in a legislative role. So I'll give a couple of examples of problem solving. So Kevin lives in an apartment in the downtown portion of the city and works second shift over at Hagen. And he walks home in the dark. And during his last stretch of the walk home, he has to cross a busy road, and with no crosswalk, and no nearby streetlight. So he writes to his city council. Or Emily, who lives up in Winchester Hills and has 3 kids that go to Woodmore, has to drive them to school every day because there's no safe route to school. There may be no sidewalks up in that neighborhood. So she writes to her city council members and politely requests that the city build sidewalks up in the neighborhoods up there. She's going to be mad as a hornet if she doesn't receive a response, or if when her kids get to middle school, up at North Shore Middle School, there are still no sidewalks in that neighborhood, and she had to drive them to school to keep them safe all those years. Maybe here's a doozy. So this is a little more complicated and maybe a much larger problem that often city councils and city staff together try to figure out and solve. Jonathan, this fictitious person. Jonathan lives at the end of a cul-de-sac where his kids play all day long in this quiet and safe cul-de-sac. Up against the end of this cul-de-sac is a 50-acre horse farm. And the horse farm's owned by an elderly couple who have been talking about for the last year downsizing and selling that property. And Jonathan and his neighbors get wind of this potential sale, and they also hear that the elderly couple is talking to housing developers. And they get really worried that their safe cul-de-sac and the safe space they have for all the kids in the neighborhood to play is going to go away, because there might be a right of way, or there might be a new road that goes through there, a through road that goes there. They're going to write to their city council. They may not just write to their city council. They may sign a petition and go to a city council meeting and stand up in public comment and demand that the city council and the city staff do something about that issue. So I guess problem solving is exactly what city council members do. Again, in collaboration with and in partnership with city staff. I like to say that Woodinville is lots of neighborhoods, but one community. And perhaps I termed that, the term one Woodinville came up many years ago to mean that Woodinville is broken up into many neighborhoods, but feels like one community. And you feel that sense of community at events, summer events or winter events or events that go on in the city. You feel community, you feel connection, and housing is a big part of it, right? Is there enough housing? Is there enough affordable housing? Are there enough types of housing to suit different people's preferences for styles of housing or types of housing or affordability of housing? There's different types of housing, and everybody has, some people like a big yard and some people don't want a yard to maintain or manage. And, some people want space around them, and some people, really like living close to their neighbors and feeling that connection. I would say downtown Woodinville feels like a very tight-knit community because you have people that live near each other, or live together and shop together and eat together and celebrate together. A lot of the city celebrations go on downtown where a lot of housing density is. And so you have a lot of new people in the city, and you have people that just really like living in an apartment or a condominium. And then you have people out in the Wellington neighborhoods who maybe have been there for 50 or 60 years and really like a little space around them. And then you have people up on the West Ridge that live in bigger neighborhoods and who maybe raise their kids together in those neighborhoods and go to the same schools and appreciate the feeling of community up there. And I would say neighborhoods are one of the most important parts of a city, and housing is a big component of that.
Currently, we have R1 zoning. I live in an R1 zone, and I have several acres surrounding my house. At times, there are pushes to get rid of R1 zoning and make it go to R4 or R6, which would then be 4 houses per acre or 6 houses per acre, respectively. And I personally think that would be a bad idea to increase all neighborhoods to where there are a higher density of housing. I think the city is better served by having some areas in the city where you do have an acre of dirt. You can have a vegetable garden. You can have the dog running around in the yard and have your outbuilding where you have your boat or your RV stored. And that's a different neighborhood. And I think that's a good thing to have a diversity of neighborhoods. And speaking of neighborhoods, I think that if you do increase zoning, making it more dense, to changing R1 to R4 or R6, then that has an impact on traffic. If you have many more vehicles in the same square acreage than you had before, and if you don't improve the streets, and actually in Woodinville, it's difficult to improve a lot of the streets significantly because buildings are built up to the streets. So you can't add 2 lanes to the main street because there's buildings there. And so I think those things, parking and vehicle traffic, have to be considered when you're talking about increasing housing density, because in some neighborhoods that may not be the best solution.
Yeah, I agree, Gary. And transportation is one of the topics that come up when you talk about neighborhoods and you talk about housing and people getting around. And yes, you're adding density to streets that maybe can't accommodate more people, or double the amount of people who live in those neighborhoods. But it's also important for a city council to consider other transportation options for people. So if it's not cars, is it buses? Is it community shuttles? Is it some kind of people mover that moves people from maybe the R1 neighborhoods to downtown in order to shop or to go to work or to celebrate? So you're right, when they change the zoning in neighborhoods that are established neighborhoods where the infrastructure is established and set and very difficult to change, it becomes a problem. So it's my understanding that Woodinville is seeking more transportation and public transportation in terms of bus service from King County Metro. And that's something that's been talked about for a long time, and maybe on the docket to change or to add to the city at some point. I think when we talk about affordability, a lot of people can't afford to have a car, or they can't afford the gasoline or the gas prices to get to and from work. And so public transportation is something that people really seek even when people decide where to live. They consider, is there ample or adequate public transportation? And in this case of Woodinville, I would say that for a long time now, the answer to that question is no. So would you agree, Gary?
Yes, I would definitely agree. And being a small business owner in the hospitality industry, that's a frequent comment from guests that come to stay with me, that they want to go wine tasting, they want to go shopping, and but golly gosh, where can we park? Because there isn't enough parking places, or and the different areas of town, although they aren't physically that far, you can't really walk from the warehouse district to the Hollywood district. You just really can't do that. So yeah, that's certainly an issue.
You know, I was thinking about all of these topics as it relates to running for city council and getting involved and deciding perhaps to throw your hat in the ring, or for someone to throw their hat in the ring and campaign and run for council. That knowing the needs of the city is extremely important. And one of the ways I got to know the needs of the city, because there were many things I didn't know, even when I first ran for council, was showing up for city council meetings and listening to the topics discussed and listening to the issues that came before the council from the citizens in public comment. So I feel public comment is one of those really important aspects of a council meeting that informs people about what's going on in these neighborhoods, right? What are people in neighborhoods working through or having difficulty with that the city could potentially do something about? And showing up at council meetings, taking notes, listening to the discussion and the testimony of the council members who have been studying this and have become students of these issues, listening to the feedback given to the council members by staff, helps form a much bigger picture and makes somebody feel like, okay, I feel like I know the people here. I know the community. I'm part of the culture here. I understand the culture, and I understand the current needs of the city, and I think I can contribute based on my understanding of all that. Without that, it is very difficult to represent. So if you only know your own personal issues or your next door neighbor's issues, it's really hard to represent 13,000 people who live in the city. But one of the ways I got informed, or I became informed, was by personally showing up to council meetings or even commission meetings and listening to the the priorities, listening to the planning, listening to the discussions on local issues. Yeah, and becoming informed.
Yeah, I would echo that completely. That when I first decided to run for city council, a couple of former mayors and a couple of other well-known folks in the community said, "Hey, Gary, you should go to the council meetings and see what's going on." And I really, I've been in a number of other organizations, but I'd never been involved in a city council. And so I thought, whoa, yeah, I really don't know what is going on here. I mean, I have my own opinions, but I really don't know how things have been going on. And I learned a lot, and I learned what more about the budget and about what was possible to do, and maybe what was going to take a little longer to fix. But yeah, I think definitely coming to city council meetings and listening. I occasionally speak during public comments if you want to do that. Certainly that is helpful to getting you to understand how the city council works.
You know, I'd also like to say, before we move from this topic of local issues, is that for people out there who have thought about running for council and have maybe been a little shy about it, thinking that they're not experts in any of these topics, that there's a giant staff of professionals who guide and educate and take the time to help council members understand the issues better, so that they can make informed decisions or take informed votes. So yes, understanding the issues at kind of a top level is important. But once you get into the job and you begin to work with staff, it becomes more clear. And I would say, Gary, I'm sure you'd agree that staff is really helpful, and staff is really open to taking the time and sitting with you and answering questions, and in meetings or, between meetings, so that you can prepare for a meeting. Some of these topics are really big and important, and being as informed as and understanding as much as you can about them before you vote on these issues is important. So I find that the partnership between council and staff is key to all that. Why run for council? Gary, you want to take a stab at this?
Sure. So over the past 30 plus years, I've been a PTA member, president, Golden Acorn, Homeowners Association president, on the State Pharmacy Commission for 11 years, which is longer than anyone else in the history of the state of Washington, and appointed by two different governors, Governor Gregoire and Governor Inslee, for those positions. And then past president of the University of Washington School of Pharmacy Alumni Association, and then city council. So I guess part of this is in my blood, that I like to, and it's really not that I want to see my name in lights. I don't want a street named after me. I don't want, it's not at all about personal glory or what's the next position that I can get into. It's about where I am, what I'm doing, what my profession is, what can I do to make this contribute to making this a better functioning organization or a better functioning city. And so that's really what drove me to run for city council, was that I wanted to see what I could do to help the situation, to help solve issues that I saw that I thought could be maybe done a little better, or money could be spent a little better on other things. So and that's really why I would say I got into it. And certainly, I have never been a career politician. I did my time, and I was happy with what I did. And but I have no desire to do one thing for 20 or 30 years.
No, that's great. I feel the same way, Gary. I believe most city council members go into public service because they want to help make their community better than it already is. I'd say run for council if you have a heart for service and you have a heart for helping people solve problems. And if you like working in groups of people, you like working on as part of a team in solving problems, then I think it's potentially a really good role for someone. If you believe that you can contribute something of value that enhances the quality of life of the people of Woodinville or your constituents, then it might be worth pursuing a city council role. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I would just add one more sentence that you should want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Absolutely. Gary, one of the things I admired about you is that you were open-minded, and which I think is a really important trait for a city council member to have. I found you very open-minded and persuadable when given new information.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important to note that going into this role is not about our own personal desires and needs, about the needs of others, and being open to considering other perspectives. So, yeah. Maybe where to start is to file with the Public Disclosure Commission, or the PDC. And the role of the PDC is to kind of manage or oversee contributions and expenditures of campaigns for people who are running for office in King County or the state. And there is a filing period in May for the King County elections, and that's May 5th through May 9th this year. There is a really, really helpful website. It's on King County's website, and on their election, in the election section of the King County website, there is a candidate manual, and they update this and they publish it every year. And I know the 2025 version of this is available online. And it helps anyone who's thinking about or interested in or committed to running step-by-step instructions, including deadlines. So filing deadlines, reporting deadlines, deadlines for when you have to submit a candidate statement for the pamphlet, so everybody can read about who you are and what you stand for. Gary, do you want to talk a little bit about marketing, about what you did in terms of marketing for your campaigns?
Sure. So for me, when I have run for office, I funded my own campaign, and that was just the way I wanted to do it. And because I thought it would avoid some paperwork, because I wasn't big on paperwork. But I got a $100 contribution from Governor Gregoire for my campaign, and she sent a note with it and said, "Okay, now Gary, you need to be sure that you report this. So in other words, you need to do filing that you need to do." And so that was kind of helping me to understand that, yes, okay, even though I'm not taking money, I need to file. And also I'm a little, bit green on the filing and the reporting. And I also thought that since if I didn't take money, why do I need to fill a monthly report or every other month report
Mm.
as the campaign is going on? And so I realized that that's not a good thing to do. That no, you do need to file the reports, and you do need to file them when they're due. So that would be pretty much all I would say on that. But um, I might say, as kind of a sidelight in marketing, that when candidates have declared, and hopefully we have a good group of candidates, and they have supporters, that I wouldn't mind having some people over to my house, and we could talk, and we could do whatever it is that we cared to do. And I would like to host some of those events. So that would be something that, would have some snacks and chat.
So I thought to add, regarding marketing of a campaign and what to expect, I would say that knocking on doors was the most important part of my campaign. Meeting people where they're at, meeting people in their neighborhoods, or knocking on doors, or canvassing the city in neighborhoods that maybe I wasn't very familiar with, or where I didn't feel like people knew me yet, was probably the most effective tool I could have used to run for office. I learned that early on, and that was something I just committed to doing. I did it with a lot of support. I had a lot of family support and friend support and community support for running. And knocking on doors was easy for me, because I like to talk to people, and I like to listen to people talk about their needs and their, maybe some of their issues. And I like to solve problems. So I thought, oh, this is right up my alley, as I can solve. And maybe I had a tendency to want to promise that I could fix problems that I necessarily didn't have the authority or power to fix all on my own. But I attended city events, and I spent money on campaign signs, and I even spent money on a little bumper sticker that said, elect me. And I didn't have a website, but my campaign budget wasn't very high. I didn't spend a lot of money, but I did have a couple of fundraising events. I would say that some of the people I was connected with or engaged with regularly held fundraising events for me, and which helped me pay for some of the things that I did do in terms of marketing. I wanted to mention that Gary and I are here because of somebody else. Jeff, I'd love to mention your name. If people don't know Jeff Lyon yet, Jeff created a political action committee, or a PAC, to help people who want to step up and get involved and potentially run for council, and support them either financially or marketing, or with their marketing, or to handhold them through the process of running for local council. It's sometimes it can seem like a daunting process, but Jeff, maybe what you could do is talk a tiny bit about your intentions.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a daunting process. Running for office, or participating in democracy generally can feel intimidating. And then certainly in politics, there's political parties, there's a lot of money that gets spent, and that can be intimidating by itself. One of the things that I'm looking to do at Democratic Woodinville is level that playing field. So you don't have to be a person who comes from a lot of money or has a lot of expendable income to serve your community. If you do, that's awesome. You're free to spend it. You're able to contribute whatever you want to contribute to your own campaign. Some people have been successfully elected with a $0 campaign. Some people might spend upwards of $7,000 or more. It's totally your choice. The support that Democratic Woodinville can provide, aside from just kind of helping people through the process and sharing information, is potentially with endorsements and contributions. So if you decide to run and put your name in, not just Democratic Woodinville, but all kinds of civic organizations out there who are supporters of democracy and want to be involved in political action, are able to do endorsements and say, hey, this organization supports what this candidate stands for, and they're able to make independent contributions. So if that's something that that interests you or would help you in your campaign, certainly reach out to those organizations. And likewise with Democratic Woodinville, reach out to us. And there'll be some information towards the end of this webinar and say, hey, could you please help me with an endorsement or please help me with contributions? And that's something that we're able to look at. The other thing too is political action committees are able to do independent promotion of candidates. So it would be something where if we endorse you as a candidate and we like what you stand for and it aligns with the PAC, we have the option of independently promoting your campaign. So without your direct involvement, you could see your name on a billboard, you could see your name in a flyer, and that right there helps get your name out as well. That's
great, Jeff. Jeff, thanks for inviting Gary and I to participate in this forum with you.
I might say just one more thing about the endorsements. So for me, my request would be that if you helped me when I was first running for office and really didn't know what the dickens I was doing, and if you like what you are hearing today, and you would like to lend your name or your assistance to what we are doing, and if you are a former mayor, deputy mayor, council member, if you would like to join us to the extent that you would be comfortable with, please give Jeff, Elaine, or I a call or a text and let us know. The one thing that I might say about campaigning and going door to door was that prior to running for office, I really didn't know all the different neighborhoods of Woodinville. I knew kind of where they were, but I didn't know anybody in the neighborhood. And so in some cases, Elaine campaigned with me and took me to neighborhoods where I didn't know anybody. Yeah. And that helped get me, get the door to open and get people to listen to what I was saying, is because they knew Elaine and they respected Elaine. And so they were content to talk to me for a couple minutes. So if we can help any of you in that way, I know I would certainly would not mind walking the streets with you, or if you have some kind of a fundraiser or an event and you would like to see my face at that, I'd be happy to come.
Yep, Jeff or Gary, I loved what you said there, and I meant to add that asking for help is probably one of the most important things you can do as a candidate. It can be, some candidates shy away from it altogether. They throw their hat in the ring and then they think to themselves, oh, this is just too much. And they don't follow through with their candidacy or their campaign. And I would say that the best way to get through it and to realize that it's, it can actually be a lot of fun, is to invite your friends or your community members to support you. And it sounds to me like Gary's offered that. And I know from listening to Jeff talk that that's what the PAC's here for. The PAC is here to support you through a campaign, whether that be fundraising or marketing or meeting people. So, Jeff, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's absolutely right. One of the things I learned, the PAC is a relatively new PAC. It started last year, and I had never been involved with any form of politics before now. This is actually a new adventure for me. Mm-hmm. I had started to participate in more in the governance of Woodinville, attending the, not as a council member clearly, but attending the city council meetings, making my voice and my opinion heard, and said, hey, I think there's room to step up and do more. I think I need to do more for this community, help more people get involved. And what I learned is it can be a lot of work. I have this saying that I use for a lot of things, home projects or be at the PAC, or the saying is, in over my head again, like something small, but it's actually quite large, right? And to Elaine's point about asking for help, lean on the people, like certainly lean on your friends and family, lean on your supporters, but lean on people who've done this before, who are in the process of doing it, and say, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I need help, or maybe you're feeling a little bit stressed out about it, and just build that support network.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much for attending our webinar today. We're here at Democratic Woodinville to support you every step of the way. If you need more information or would like to chat, please feel free to reach out, info@woodinville.vote. Or you can go to our website and learn more at woodinville.vote/serve. There's tons of useful resources on that website. This webinar will be posted there. And there's links to other websites like Secretary of State, King County Elections. As Elaine mentioned earlier, there's a wealth of information on those websites as well. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you, Elaine. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.